What's up, guys? Jonathan back here to give you a little rundown of one of the games coming up this weekend, Alabama and Penn State. I'm gonna talk about their stats from last Saturday's game, and I'm gonna give my opinion and my prediction on the upcoming game Saturday. Now, both teams are obviously struggling with starting quarterback issues. For instance, Alabama, A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims. Don't know which one they're going to choose. Can't make up their minds. Both had good things about them. Both had bad. Phillip Sims, he seemed to be a little late all day. A.J. McCarron, he was on time, but his accuracy was questioned a little bit. Some of the throws. Both of them had 2 picks each, and 1 pick each. You could say that wasn't their fault. And Penn State has Matt McGloin and Rob Bolden. Both of them pretty much the exact same story. Both had good, both had some bad. Matt McGloin, he was accurate all day, and he was pretty consistent throughout. I didn't see a whole lot of bad out of him. Rob Bolden, he was about the same. He threw more passes but completed less. It seems like to me he's just more of a runner. First I'm going to start. Now I'm just going to talk about some of their team stats. I'm going to start with Penn State. They came out with a win. That's all I got to say. They came out with a good, easy win. Final score was 41-7. In all, they totaled 359 yards. Very good. Rushing, in all, they had 48 attempts rushing for 245 yards. That's about 3/4 of their whole offense right there. I think that's pretty much how they're going to make their living this year. If they put Matt McGloin, maybe they'll pass it a little more. He's more of a pocket passer. Rob Bolden, he's a little bit more of a runner. So either way, passing in all, they only had 114 yards, but considering in all they only threw 24 throws, I guess it's pretty good in between them. Their game, I watched about 90% of it, and I kind of turned it off at the end because, it was already clear in. I turned it off about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was a pretty big blowout. Alabama, I watched most of that. I was switching back and forth between that and the Auburn game. I'll be talking about that in another video I'm going to make in just a little bit. Team stats for Alabama was they won their game against Kent State 48-7. Sorry, that didn't really come out. They won 48-7. Passing yards in total, they had 183, so they had roughly 70 more passing yards than Penn State did, but that doesn't mean they did anything better. They had more turnovers and more picks. Passing yards, they had 300. Rushing, they had 183. Sorry, I mixed up my notes there. Total yards, they had 482. So they had almost 100 more, maybe a little over 100 more. Total yards, they had rushing, they had 35 attempts for 183 yards. Trent Richardson, he didn't have the game everybody that thought he was going to have, but he got 3 touchdowns. He only had about 37 yards rushing. So a lot of people say it's bad. A lot of people say, it's still good. He got 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to come out a little bit stronger against Penn State. Although Penn State could shut them down. Their defense, Penn State's defense looked really good. Alabama's defense just looked like it looked like the 2009 championship defense. Honestly, they have 9 out of 11 starters coming back. The only ones they lost were Marcel Darius and one of their defensive backs. But anything can happen over the season. Their defense looked really good against Kent State, and Penn State's defense. I'm sorry, I keep messing up. Penn State's defense looked really good as well. Now I'm going to talk individual stats, starting with Penn State's quarterbacks. Matt McGloin had 8 attempts with 6 completions for 77 yards. So he completed 75% of his passes. That's really good. Rob Bolden, like I said, he had more attempts. He had 12 attempts, but only 6 completions, 50% for 37 yards. Like I said, I think he's a little bit more of a scrambling quarterback, maybe more of a runner. But that does not mean he can't drop back and pass the ball. He's got a very good arm on him. Alabama better not underestimate what he can do if he starts. My own opinion, I think they're going to start Matt McGloin, just because he looked a little bit more consistent, and I think they can get a little bit more out of him. But if they put Rob Bolden in, Alabama better not undermine him. Rushing, Silas Reed had 12 attempts for 104 yards, 8.7 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. So he had a very, very productive game. Alabama should watch out for him as well. I think he's their big offensive threat. Curtis Dukes, 6 attempts, 47 yards. All of their touchdowns came on the ground. They didn't have one receiving, passing touchdown. It was all on the ground. The only ones who scored touchdowns were Silas Reed with 2, Joey Shuley at 1 with a rush, Michael Zerdick 1 with a rush, and Shane McGregor with a rush. So none of them receiving, none of them passing. All rushing. Now receiving-wise, they still did pretty good, even though they didn't have any touchdowns. Derek Moore had 4 receptions for 57 yards, 43 yards per catch. That's very good. That's probably their go-to guy. Joe Shuley, 2 attempts, 16 yards, 8 yards per catch. Like I said, they are not short on talent when it comes to receiving-wise. If you underestimate their receivers or their running backs, then you got another thing coming. Alabama's probably going to be a little bit more focused on their rushing because they're still trying to get their quarterback situation straight. I don't know if they're going to do a substitution thing like Alabama did in their Kent State game or what. I think what they might do is I think that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to put Matt McGloin in there on a big passing situation or so and put Rob Bolden in there as maybe a wildcat quarterback since he's a little bit more versatile. Now, Alabama player stats, A.J. McCarron, like I said, he was a little bit more consistent than Phillip Sims was. You know, not by much. He had some flaws too. He was 14 for 23 with 226 yards passing. Now, he did have a good day passing, but he also had 2 interceptions. One was on time and it was overthrown, caught by a safety. And another one was a perfect throw right in the receiver's hands, just bounced off into a defender. So the second one you could probably not count as his fault. The receivers need to kind of fix that. Phillip Sims was 7 for 14, 73 passing yards. He didn't have a lot of passing yards, but he showed that he was a little bit more versatile. He had one run that I think was for 20-something yards. So he does have legs. And in my own opinion, A.J. McCarron is a little bit more consistent. But Phillip Sims is a little more accurate. He can step up in the pocket and he can make a consistent throw. Just he wasn't as on time as A.J. McCarron was. Receiving wise, Marquise Mays had his, I think it was his 5th 100-yard game. 8 receptions, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. Touchdown came from A.J. McCarron. Good game for him. And DeAndrew White, he was the surprise of the day. He had 4 receptions for 14 yards. He didn't have any touchdowns, and he didn't have a whole lot of yards. But still, he only started because Darius Hanks could not. Darius Hanks is going to be out the next game, and I think either DeAndrew White or their new junior college transfer is going to come in. But DeAndrew White shocked a lot of people. Nobody thought he was going to play that good. They thought he was just going to be in there to block a little bit, make 1 or 2 catches. But no, he didn't have a whole lot of yards, but he was a playmaker. He kind of fired up the crowd, if you know what I mean. Eddie Lacy, their running back, 3 receptions, 76 yards. He had one that went for, I think, 50, so that really helped him out. Now, rushing is Alabama's forte, I guess you could say. But they didn't have as good of a game rushing as you would expect Alabama to have, you know. Trent Richardson, he didn't have the game everybody thought he was going to have. 13 carries for 37 yards. Like I said, he did have 3 touchdowns. Eddie Lacy, the 2 surprises of the day were Eddie Lacy and DeAndrew White. Eddie Lacy, nobody really talked about him all that much, but he came out and gave them something to talk about. I think he is going to be just as good of a backup for Trent Richardson as Trent Richardson was for Mark Ingram. He is that good. He may not, get talked about as much as the superstar Trent Richardson, and Justin Fowler had 4 attempts for 69 yards and 1 touchdown. I think one of those touchdowns was for 40 yards. That was a very good play. Now I'm going to look back at last year's game. Penn State came into Alabama with a freshman quarterback, so it was going to be pretty tough for him. Alabama ended up winning that game 24-3. Penn State scored in the fourth quarter. That was their only time. Total yards rushing, Alabama had 180, Penn State had 127, so that wasn't too much of a difference. But the big thing that was a difference was passing. Alabama had 230, Penn State had 156. That was the big thing. Like I said, freshman quarterback in a hostile environment like Alabama, it's not going to turn out well. Greg McElroy was the only one that passed for Alabama in that game last year, so he's gone. So put in a freshman quarterback. Well, not a freshman either. I think A.J. McCarron's going to start, so throw in a sophomore quarterback. And pretty much the same predicament Penn State was in with Alabama last year, Alabama's going to be in this year with a freshman quarterback in a hostile environment in front of 110,000 screaming fans. That's going to be a challenge. Don't know how that's going to turn out. Rushing last year, Trent Richardson, that was his game. Mark Ingram was still out. Trent Richardson comes in, gets 144 yards rushing off 22 attempts and a touchdown. His numbers will probably be about the same. I'm not saying, he's going to be so great this year, but probably about the same. Penn State, Evan Royster, he's gone. So he had 9 carries for 32 yards. He's gone. So he put in Silas Reed, who had 5 carries for 26 yards, who actually played like a very good veteran running back in their first game. I think he'll do well. I think this is going to be a battle of Penn State's offense, which is flourishing, against Alabama's defense, which is flourishing. Penn State has a lot of question marks on their defense. Alabama has a lot of question marks on their offense. Will Trent Richardson be a Mark Ingram of his junior year, where he didn't play up to everybody's expectations? I don't know. My opinion, I think it's going to be a little different than that, but like I said, 110,000 screaming fans can joggle your mind a little bit. Receiving wise, Julio Jones is gone. Take him out. Trent Richardson had four catches for 46 yards. He's a lot underrated as a catcher, as everybody talks about. Hold on, I'm getting updates on my phone right now. Oh, Peyton Manning is having another surgery. Well, good luck, Indianapolis. Anyway, like I said, Trent Richardson is a much underrated receiver than everybody gives him credit for. Great hands. I think he could be a full receiver if he was taller and less built. Darius Hanks, he's going to be out. Marquise Mays, I think he's going to have about the same game as he did the first time, maybe just not as many yards. And Penn State, well, their receivers, they also have a good core of receivers. I'm not taking anything away from them. But most of them are new to the starting offense. The only one really back is Joe Shuley. Derek Moore. And last year in that game, he had a pretty good game. He three catches for 69 yards. To me, the big thing is going to be, how is Alabama's quarterback's situation going to pan out? And I think Matt McGloin is going to get the start for Penn State. I think he's going to play good. I think he's going to have probably one of the best games he's going to have this year. But I think Alabama's defense is a little bit more veteran. They can probably handle the hostile crowd. In my own opinion, I think the game is going to turn out as a 6-point game. Okay, I think the final score is going to be 27-21. Just a guess. I think their quarterback situation is not, Alabama's isn't going to have the best quarterback situation, but Trent Richardson's going to have a good game, and Marquise Mays is going to have a good game. I think those are the key combinations. Matt McGloin, I think he's going to have a good game himself, but it's not going to be enough just for him to have a good game. I think they're going to need a lot more than that. So final score, 27-21. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to have a new video out about the Alabama-Mississippi State game. in just a little while. So thank you, and please subscribe. I need more subscribers. Thank you.